Hansen joins us now, the color analyst for the University of Arizona. Ryan, we apologize for that. We were talking about our old days of being DJs in college. Were you a DJ in college at all, or did you do anything like that?
No, you guys have gone off the rails.
Yeah,
You're digging into that. This is problematic. Let's get you back on track.
Yeah, let's get this. Well, speaking of getting on track, was it the 8,700 people in Kansas State in that crowd that affected the three-point shooting for the Wildcats on Tuesday night?
Or was it the lavender uniforms? Which one was it?
Well, did it affect both teams? Holy cow, didn't you see Kansas State? They couldn't throw water into the boat. I mean, it was unbelievable. They were 1 of 19, so both teams really struggled. I think it was a combination. Pretty good defense and just Arizona, let's be frank, guys. I got a stat for you that it's a little bit of a sticking point. If the season ended today, this would be the worst three-point shooting team by percentage in Arizona basketball history.
Wow. And that's where the game's going.
Back to when the three-point line went into existence, 31.8% would be the lowest they've shot on record. That kind of tells the story of what happened in Manhattan, Kansas. This is unfortunately not an aberration. This is not a great three-point shooting team.
What do you attribute that to? Because isn't basketball all about the three-pointer now?
Well, it is, and I think Tommy Lloyd has made his hay inside out. Kind of, he's the running game version of college basketball, right? Not the vertical passing game that we've seen in pro and college football. I think he focuses on high percentage looks near the basket, and that's been awesome. I think part of it is maybe recruiting really good shooters or recruiting really good athletes and trying to develop them into shooters. And I'm not saying it's a bad decision, but I think Arizona is also kind of living and dying with some very streaky guys. KJ Lewis did not make the jump from his freshman to sophomore season from a three-point shooting standpoint. Caleb Love's numbers are down, but you know what? He kind of is what he is. You know who he is. And they haven't been getting the production from other players at a high percentage that they thought they would. So it's a little bit of everything.
So, Ryan, they've won 14 out of the last 17. So are you saying they're just getting by, or there's a commonality when they do win these games?
Well, let's not act like this is, this team is not good.
Right.
This might be Tommy Lloyd's best defensive team. When you look at the numbers, Arizona's the third best team in the Big 12 in field goal percentage defense. Would you have believed that at this point? Probably not. This is a really good defensive team. This is a team that gets to the free throw line. This is a team that hits their free throws at a high clip. When you look historically, the last 50 years of Arizona basketball, if the season ended today, this would be the third best free throw shooting team by percentage in the last 50 years. So how do they do their magic? How do they get it done? In the paint, putting pressure on teams defensively, getting to the free throw line, and then they're defending better. So all is not lost because they're not knocking down threes at a high clip. It's just that is, unfortunately, when you look at the numbers and the games in which they've lost. Let's look at their last 3 losses, guys. 2 made threes against UCLA, 3 made threes against Texas Tech, and 2 made threes against Kansas State. That'll get you buried again in any season.
And the guy that you talk about with KJ Lewis off the bench, with Henry Visar, that kid's been constant for you the entire season when you're only running 8 total off the bench in these games.
Well, that's been the turning point of the season, right? Was after Arizona came home from the Bahamas, it was documented then that, hey, Mo Krivas was out, injury, going to be out for the rest of the year. So Tommy Lloyd had to retool the lineup and went to Henry Vesar off the bench. They re-put KJ Lewis off the bench, feeling that would be a better rotation for him coming in off the bench. Arizona's bench then has been a stalwart. They've been averaging over 30 points off the bench, one of the best teams in the country in that number. And the emergence of Henry Vesar has probably been the biggest bright spot of this season. That guy is what I believe, and others agree to. Scott Drew, the head coach from Baylor, after playing Arizona, said Henry Vesar, bona fide NBA prospect.
I'm with you on that 100%, Ryan. Ryan Hansen is our guest on the Right Toyota guest line. I want to go back, though, to the statement that you made about how good they have been in getting to the free throw line. So my question to you is, when they are struggling, and you chronicled what their three-point shooting has been, and it has been miserable for those games that you just spoke about, does Coach Lloyd then say, guys, get the ball, go to the basket, let's go for mid-range shots, or
Brock, I think
does
we're
it
going to hold off on ticket giveaways?
does
right
it
now.
still just stay the way it is, where
Just a heads
guys are
up.
jacking up three-pointers?
Great question. If you look at Arizona's attempts from the three-point line, there hasn't been too many games that have been completely out of whack. They took 22 threes against Kansas State. If you're only making 2, that feels like, what are you doing?
Sure.
But 22 is right in around what they're averaging on the season, 22 attempts from the three-point line. And, Coach, you're 100% right. When Arizona looks good, when Arizona is, quote-unquote, right offensively, they're getting downhill on ball screen action. They're not stepping behind the ball screen and taking ill-advised threes. They're cutting off of back cuts. They're having diagonal cuts from the wing instead of floating and relocating to the three-point line. If you're KJ Lewis, you should see him as a drive is coming on the strong side. On the weak side, he should be diagonally cutting to the rim. That's when Arizona's right, not floating and relocating for that three-point shot. So the flow offensively for Arizona has to be attacking the paint either with drives with the ball or cuts without the basketball. That's when Arizona's right. And if they're hitting threes, that's kind of now gravy. If Arizona makes 6 threes, they're undefeated this season. Does that sound crazy? Only 6.
Yeah.
When they've made 6 threes and turned it over 12 times or less, they're undefeated. So take care of the ball, get downhill. This is a good team. But what's keeping them from being great is when they have those really bad shooting days.
All right, we're going to go into the mystery machine right now. Which Caleb Love do we get down the stretch? The guy who, as you used a reference, can't even put water in the boat, or the guy who can make a three-quarter length shot, send the game into overtime, and then win it in overtime?
About 2 more minutes.
You really chronicled the Caleb Love experience of his 5 years of college basketball. He was 1 for 10 from the three-point line going into that Iowa State 55-footer. Not exactly hot. And he buries that 3, then makes his 2-3 attempts in overtime, and Arizona goes on to win. I don't want to articulate this and say, however Caleb goes, Arizona goes. Because Arizona's won games when Caleb has not been fantastic. So it's not cut and dry. But we all know to make a deep run, and when I say deep run, I'm talking Elite 8, Final 4, past what Tommy Lloyd has done so far in his tenure at Arizona. The best player on Arizona needs to be at his best. Most teams, that's how they roll. Well, at this point, you look at it, really the best player for Arizona probably is Caleb Love. So if they get Caleb at his best in that Sweet 16 game, I think Arizona advances. But you've asked the question because I think you know the answer. You don't know what you're going to get night in and night out. That's been a challenge. How about this stat, boys? In Arizona's 7 losses, Caleb Love is shooting 16% from the three-point line.
Wow.
Mixing a layup once in a while, huh, Ryan?
Damn.
Right?
Hey.
But he's shooting in their wins. He's shooting 37%.
Yeah.
That's above his career averages, right? So it is kind of wow. That how he goes, Arizona could their ultimate ceiling is probably tied to Caleb Love's shooting performance.
All right, got about a minute. How jacked up will McHale Center be 12 high noon on Saturday? Number 6, Houston comes in town. Will that place be rocking and rolling?
It's been rocking, guys, this year. Iowa State, Texas Tech. It was kind of back to the heyday and the glory days of McHale Center in the last 40 years. This will be no exception when Houston rolls in. And by the way, some of the older fans, they've got an axe to grind with Kelvin Sampson from his days back at Washington State. So our fans have a long memory. They remember. So it's not just how good Houston is. And by the way, boys, they can win the national title. They're that good.
Yep.
It's going to be an awesome electric environment come Saturday.
Do you think they're the best team in college football, college baseball, or baseball? Geez, basketball right now? Can't talk.
You know, I don't know if there's a cut and dry best team. I think they're in the mix. They're one of probably the 8 teams that can win it because they defend at an extremely high clip. And you look at their 3-point shooting, they're not a volume 3-point shooting team. but they lead the Big 12 in three-point shooting percentage. And you have a great defense and outside shooting, that's a pretty lethal combination.
Rhino, thanks, bud. Appreciate you all the time. Thanks for coming on with us today.
Hey, glad to be on. Coach, great to talk to you, buddy. The other guys, not so much.
I got you, Ryan. All right, pal. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Don't
Right.
indulge him,
Ryan
Ryan.
Hansen joining us, University of Arizona radio color analyst. You can follow him on Twitter, X, UA Rhino. Tough loss to K-State.
Yeah, it was.
But, hey, if they could take care of business down in
Against Houston,
Tucson,
yeah.
they could, then they'll finish tied with Houston in the Big 12, and that would be kind of a nice little way to start their first year in the Big 12
They're
conference.
very talented. They are. It goes back to what we opened the show with about the Phoenix Suns on paper.
Yeah.
They're very talented. U
So-
of A is very talented as well on paper.
Real quick, I know we got to go to break, but what have you ever coached? Why does he call you coach? Does he think you're somebody else?
No, because
Seriously.
because I asked basketball questions.
Jimmy, also, do you think that the saying is he can't hit the water from the boat versus
Yes.
you can't hit the water?
Yes,
if
I
you know-
repeated what Ryan said. That was his expression, so I repeated it back to him. He said you couldn't throw water in the boat.
That doesn't make sense.
So-
Usually you can't hit the water from the boat.
I know what it is, Manucci. I repeated his back to him to see
You
if
should
he
have
would
corrected
get it.
him.
No, I'm not going
You
to
can't correct the
him.
guess. That's mean.
Yeah, exactly.
I would have.
I'm not gonna
No,
get
you
it.
wouldn't.
No, you
No,
wouldn't.
you wouldn't.
No.
Ryan, you
Shut up.
You hit the water.
You act like you were like so
I would-
cool, like sometimes. Like,
I
even like
am.
you when you were even growing up, like you were like the top dog.
I was.
No, come on. You played right field. All right.
Played left out.
Coming up, I should say, a chance to win some tickets. It's Listener Appreciation Ticket Thursday. Today, this coming segment, we'll do Harlem Globetrotters, lower level tickets for Desert Diamond Arena in Glendale. That is February 21st. You listen to Rock and Minucci with Coach Jimmy B. Now on ESPN 20.